Retire Plugged In newsletter number 15. Why when you retire matters more than your rate of return. The real truth about retirement. In newsletter number 14, we revealed the first two questions you should ask if you're within 5 years of retirement. What does it cost to be me? And second, what lifestyle do I want in retirement? Not what many advisors ask, which is how much is in your 401k and other retirement accounts, and what's the average rate of return on your investments. If you missed it, go back and review that first step toward retirement. The questions above, which most advisors ask, are purely for their benefit. The first question is to decipher whether they want to work with you. The second question is to see if they can convince you that they can do better, so you'll hire them. What questions should you ask now that you know how much gross income you will need? Remember, what you can spend is net income. The last newsletter explained how to figure out the gross income you'll need before taxes. We saw that Steve and Joyce would need to spend $8,108 a month to support the lifestyle they want in retirement. Unfortunately, they made one of the most common mistakes we see, thinking that if they have that much income, they're good. When we calculated the tax that they'd have to pay before they could net 8,108, they would need 10,135 a month income, over 2,000 more than they anticipated. That's 24,000 a year more they hadn't counted on needing. What are Steve and Joyce's next steps? Now that we know their gross income needed, it's time to figure out how to cover the basic and operating expenses, we call it B&O, as much as possible with guaranteed income streams. You remember that we break expenses down into BODE, so it bodes well for you. B, basic every month, your mortgage, your home and health insurance, etc. And then O is your operating expenses, food, clothes, home repairs, cell phone, internet, all of those things. D is discretionary, stopping at Starbucks, eating out at McDonald's, snacks, those Amazon orders. And E is entertainment. That's basically your vacations, trips, movies, concerts, Netflix, sports. Stephen Joyce's first goal, and yours, is to have their guaranteed income streams cover at least B and O. Once we've covered these, we know the basics are covered, no matter market returns. What? Where do I get guaranteed income? The good news? You and your spouse, even if he or she never worked, already have a guaranteed income you can plan with, Social Security. I started by saying when you retire matters more than your return on investments. There are two factors that make this true. Factor number one is that Social Security income benefit growth versus investment returns is important. Factor number two, the rate of return versus the sequence of returns in the economic cycle that you retire in. We'll begin to cover factor number one today and how when you take Social Security can determine your retirement success. There's so much to know about your Social Security and the rules that apply that we'll go even deeper into Social Security taxation, survivor benefits, and so forth next week. Today, we'll cover the basics of Social Security in your retirement. Okay, don't panic. I know the news just said the trust fund will run out in less than 10 years in 2034. However, recent reports dated June 16th, 2026, see this as overstated. Additionally, this is greatly misunderstood. If the trust fund were 100% depleted, that's only a small part of where your monthly payments are coming from. Most of the payments are funded by current contributions. If they were to raise the amount of income taxed by Social Security, commensurate with the rising income and higher earners, it would increase the income to pay retirees. Congress has said over and over that any changes to benefits or age changes will apply only to those under 55 or 60, and nothing would change for those already collecting. The biggest change and most reasonable change they should make would be highly unpopular. What's that? Raise the full retirement age to age 70 and the minimum age to collect to 65 at the least. Why do I consider this reasonable? Because we live in a different age than when Social Security was established in 1935. Federal News Network reports that when Social Security was launched in 1935, the average life expectancy for men was 59.9 years and 63.9 for women. In 1935, full Social Security benefits started at age 65, past the average life expectancy. Let's translate that. Social Security was set up to truly be a safety net for those who lived so long they could no longer work, not to grace people with income to take a vacation for as many years as they worked. That's unsustainable. When I say unsustainable, it's not just for Social Security. Our nation can't survive without a working population. The life expectancy at birth today is 81.4 years for women and 76.5 for men. According to standard Social Security Administration period life tables and actuarial industry charts, a 65-year-old married couple, one male, one female, faces the following joint life expectancy milestones. The average life joint expectancy, 24.2 additional years. At least one spouse is expected to live to 89. Chance of one spouse reaching age 90 is 53% better than a coin flip. Chance of one spouse reaching age 95, 22%, roughly a 1 in 5 chance. Here's a chart showing male, female, and couple longevity. This includes the entire population, including those on drugs who don't have health care, but the statistics for homeowners and those with retirement accounts are even higher. In other words, one spouse could receive benefits from age 62 to 97, a total of 35 years. If they graduated from college and began working at 27, they may have worked 35 years and then collected benefits for another 35 years. A recent news story highlighted a couple, ages 108 and 107. Eleanor and Lyle Gittins are the world's longest married couple. There is a video that you can watch where they were interviewed, and they are still quite knowledgeable about what their past was and where they are now. How many people do you know who could continue to work past 65 or even 70? I'll bet you know quite a few, and one of them just might be you. Now, you may be mad at me, but I'm here to give you the real truth about retirement. Nora, what about those poor people who do physical labor and can't work into those ages? Good question. If someone can no longer perform the physical work they've been doing, and I'd give it a qualifying number of years in that occupation to be considered, they could receive their benefits earlier through the disability portion of Social Security. What does that mean? If the rules on disability were used, as they are today, for those people based on their ability to continue their chosen lifetime occupation, they could collect their full Social Security early as disability. And that's just how it works right now. Will Congress make the changes necessary to save Social Security? I feel certain they will, but not until they are forced to. Now that we've addressed Social Security and made you mad at me for telling the truth about what needs to be done, let's look at factor number one, Social Security income benefit growth versus investment returns. Your Social Security benefit depends on when you collect. Did you know there are 7 main types of Social Security benefits, including retirement, spousal, disability, and survivor options? Because you can mix, match, and delay these depending on your marital status and work history, there are over 500 different filing strategies. In fact, 567 ways to claim Social Security. Easily, it gets complicated. Did you know that Social Security employees are forbidden from giving you advice? They can tell you what your benefits are, but you must determine the best way and time to collect them. This really makes total sense, unfortunately. Why? Because they don't know your family or financial situation, and they're not licensed financial fiduciaries. Sure, you can Google it and get an AI answer. However, not only does Google not know your personal situation, but it also doesn't know your family's illness and longevity history. And even with that, its answers are often incorrect. Just read the disclaimer when you ask a question. Quote, AI responses may include mistakes. For financial advice, consult a professional. In summary, it's not just a question of early collection, the full retirement age, or age 70. Before you even consider when to collect, know the facts affecting your Social Security. First, how will your Social Security be taxed? You know about your net income, gross income, and adjusted gross income, but have you been educated about your provisional income that determines the taxation of your Social Security? There's a short video here that explains how provisional income is calculated. Once your provisional income is calculated, there's a complicated formula as to how much your Social Security will be taxed. And here's a video to explain that. One of our clients, Steve, asked us, wouldn't it be a good idea to go ahead and collect at 62? I wouldn't need the money since I'm still working, so I could invest it and grow my retirement account. After all, I can probably do better than the government with my money. Now, Steve had a very good federal career, earning well over $125,000, and he definitely didn't need the money while working, so that made perfect sense to him. What could be the problem with his plan? Steve didn't know what he didn't know, like so many of us. First, he didn't understand provisional income, the taxation on benefits, and that his current income would definitely affect how much tax he has to pay on that benefit before he nets the money he wants to invest. Plus, it will raise him to an additional tax bracket. Second, he was unaware of a very important rule, the Social Security earnings test. If you collect under full retirement age, FRA, which is 67 for most people today, you're subject to this test. How does that work? The test is on how much you earn and whether you have to give back some, as much as 50% of the Social Security you expected to collect. This is a short video explaining the ramifications. Third factor, he thought he could do better with his money than the government could. Normally, I'd agree with him, but not when it comes to Social Security benefits. Steve wasn't aware that his benefit would increase by 8% every year he waits to collect, plus cost of living increases. As we noted in newsletter number 11, historical Social Security COLAs have averaged around 2%. Steve, can you guarantee a return of over 10% on your investments? Actually, Steve would have to earn more than 10% because he won't get the full amount of his Social Security to invest. This has been quite a journey just to discuss these basics of Social Security. Beware, what you don't know can hurt you. Stay tuned next week for how to maximize your retirement using Social Security as a base and how to increase your guaranteed income for life to meet your basic and operating expenses. This brings us back to our reason for this newsletter and our membership site, Retire Plugged In, which will roll out shortly. Our goal is to educate and protect you from a lack of information, misleading information, and information that doesn't pertain to your situation. Retire Plugged In is more than a membership site. It's a growing community built by us with retirees and future retirees for retirees and future retirees. Could you help us help you? We're looking for pre-retirees and retirees who can give us feedback on what would be most helpful in our membership site. Think about it. No cost, no big time commitment, but an opportunity to not only shape this, but also to have exclusive founding member access and perks. We'll explain more at the end of next week's newsletter.